Ryan Glover. I wanted to talk about like a little bit about my journey in hip hop. So my very first show that I performed at was a pay to play show, and I know there's a lot of people who like say like don't do play to play shows, but like I did, and the first people I opened up for was Digital Underground. I wanted to open up for Digital Underground because like they were like a group I grew up listening to, and like I really admired them as artists. And it was at the Viper Room in LA in West Hollywood. And I think like the show, like I had to sell like, about like $1,500 worth of tickets. I couldn't sell those tickets like for anyone. Like, nobody wanted to buy any. I ended up giving a lot of the tickets away. Like, to people I knew, like, people I just met or who wanted to go to the show and stuff. I think I gave like this one guy like 20 tickets named Marcus. And I went to the show and I performed and I had a great time. I ended up like, meeting Money B, meeting Shock G, getting to go backstage. Shock G kicked me out so he could do drugs backstage. True story. And I left like, elated. I got to see them perform. The very next show I did, I opened up for Dead Prez. And like the guy who I gave like, 20 tickets to, he really appreciated it. And then he told me that he rapped. So like I invited him to perform on the Dead Prez show with me. And that show like sold out, but like I couldn't sell any of those tickets either. Like I ended up, the pre-sale was definitely like $2,000. I did the show, and before that I like had paid Stickman to do a song with him, like which is actually on my YouTube channel. I had a great time. It was at the Key Club, which is also in West Hollywood. It's no longer called the Key Club, but I performed for Dead Prez, like, after going to their meet and greet at Sean Healy Presents, which was like it was across the street from Fairfax High School, and I met Dead Prez. I got photos with him, and then like I went and performed the show, and it was to a sold out crowd, like, and people like, it was a good vibe. I stayed for like, majority of the show. I had a couple girls I invited like, to the show. So I was going to warm up the car, like, to take one of them home. And I get it asked by like a police officer, like, why I'm jaywalking. Like, keep in mind, like, it's probably like after 12, like, no one's going down Sunset Boulevard at this time. It was just an empty street. And like, they're screaming like, F the police in the background. He had an attitude. Long story short, I get arrested for jaywalking. And that was like, a difficult, like, period for a little bit. Cause like I spent that night in jail. I had to get, I was in the military at the time, which is like, it's kind of a contradiction because why are you going to a Dead Prez show? But like, in the Coast Guard, I was like spending like, government money to do like, these hip hop shows, like, pretty much is like one of the reasons why I joined the Coast Guard. So like I could pursue my entertainment career because I was kind of like doing a lot of like what I was doing before, but like, at a level where I couldn't do as much because I didn't have any money. I didn't really want to work. Like I would get jobs like, Target and like overnight, and I wasn't really enjoying it. Like, and I wouldn't have enough money to kind of like do or live the way I wanted to. But in LA, I was like, living, and I was like recording an album around the period. I did a song with Stickman. It's called The People. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. After that, I ended up opening for Camp Lo, because the guy Marcus, like, he was a huge fan of Camp Lo. And I remember like before the show, like we actually got to interview Camp Lo. We were kind of like doing the YouTube. This is like in 2008. So like YouTube wasn't like, as big as it is now, like, where you can monetize and like make money from it. Like that wasn't a thing yet. But like, we still like, had the idea of like, recording interviews. And like I recorded this interview with Camp Lo where I was asking his questions, but like they're drunk. And one of the guys actually in the Camp Lo was so drunk that he actually fell off the chair. And then like, his manager comes like, oh no, and ended up taking the footage. I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't know which member of Camp Lo it was. But like, we stayed for the shows at the Knitting Factory, which no longer is around, but that was in like West Hollywood as well, I think. And then after that, like, I started focusing on solo shows because it wasn't really working out with the guy Marcus. I did a show like, for Slick Rick in Long Beach. And I remember meeting Slick Rick outside of like, Long Beach at the Rhythm Lounge. which was on Pine. Like, at that particular time, like that's where I would spend most of my time in Long Beach, because like, I was stationed at MSST LA Long Beach, and it was in San Pedro. So like I was staying like downtown Long Beach, sleep in my car, like, right there on Pine, like Fifth and Pine. I think, like, it was an internet cafe, particularly at that time, right next to the Walmart. And I would sleep in my car, like, and I met, like, Teddy Styles. He worked at the Vault 350, and he kind of connected me with, like, this guy named Dre Infinite, who engineered my album. And the album, like, you could hear it mostly, like, on my Reverb Nation page. Yeah, like, those songs were really good. I think, like, like, that we were recording, like, we did a lot of songs. I submitted them to radio. Some of them got radio play. The reviews, like, weren't really that great. They were kind of mixed. A lot of people were saying, like, they felt like, that I could be like the second coming of Common, or like, trying to put me into that category, which is not something I ever, like, was trying to strive for. But I was very proud of, like, the music and stuff that I recorded, and then, like, to have a collaboration and stuff with Six Man. After the Slick Rick show, I remember doing a show with I stopped doing pay to play shows for a while, like, and I think I did a show with Ugly Duckling at the Rhythm Lounge, which was really great. And then, like, I think I did a show, like, at USC, which was cool. And it was, like, with Phoenix and this girl named Tiffany, who I met in downtown Long Beach. Like, they were really great. Phoenix is on the song with Stickman as well, called The People. And it was, like, a great time. I really enjoyed, like, that particular era. I feel like I would have been, like, a lot more successful. I was spending a lot of my money on women, just like alcohol, not so much marijuana, because, like, I wasn't smoking as much, like, but a little bit of that. I remember, like, kind of like, just spending time, like, with the wrong type of people. I ended up going back to Chicago for a brief period, and I finished my degree, like, at Illinois College. And then I ended up going back to Los Angeles, like, to attend the New York Film Academy. And I started doing pay-to-play shows again after I swore I never would. I did a pay-to-play show for Bun B, but I couldn't make the pre-sale. I was so embarrassed. And basically Sean Healy was saying, like, he didn't trust me after that point. And I did a pay-to-play show for the Bone Thugs and Harmony at the Galaxy. But, like, the difference between, like, the Galaxy, they wouldn't even let you, like, meet the artist, or, like, get pictures, like, with, like, Bone Thugs and Harmony. I didn't even see Bone Thugs and Harmony at the show, so I ended up leaving. I think I got kicked out of the venue, or, like, people, I ended up leaving early because I was so afraid about getting pulled over, because I remember my tail light was out, and I know, like, how racist Orange County was. And then I was supposed to do another show, but, like, with Bone Thugs and Harmony at the Galaxy. But before the show, I ended up getting arrested on a felony robbery charge. Yeah, like, so, like, I ended up going to jail for a brief period. I bailed out. My bail was $50,000. I ended up leaving Los Angeles, going back home to Chicago. And that was, I think, like, the last show I did. So the last show I did was in Santa Ana, California, opening for Bone Thugs and Harmony. And if I could do it all over, I would say, like, I had some good memories, because obviously I met, like, a lot of artists. And I think, like, the biggest thing I learned is don't do pay-to-play shows. I think I had a manager who was telling me why, like, that those weren't worthwhile, because you don't really build a fan base, which I haven't ever built a fan base. I don't think I really have, like, people that appreciate my music, or, who would show up to see me perform, even though I've made, like, what I feel to be, like, a lot of good music, and I've had reviews and been on, like, some major platforms and done songs with, like, there's no way to shortcut the work. And I think, like, artists think, like, by paying to be more visible in front of another artist's fan base, that those people's fans will become your fans, even if you kill the show. And that's not necessarily true. I think, like, maybe if you sell merch, it could be beneficial. But, like, even then, like, I think, like, even though, like, artists aren't selling a whole lot of merch, like people that I know, like, you know, aren't selling. Maybe one or two people are going to buy a shirt, like, you know, for $40 to make it worthwhile. So keep that in mind.